Okay, I'm 30 minutes late. Everything that could, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Listen, about 9:30, I was still in my shower with a Trader Joe's shampoo bar, understanding that I had made a major mistake. But mistake averted. Shampoo bar should only be used for my hair type and braids. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is we are coming together because the full moon in Leo went live or went direct yesterday, which was Sunday, January 1st, 2026. But welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Leo full moon, and we're just going to step right into it. So, okay. My name is Jasmine, by the way, your local creatrix. So, this is Leo full moon, which is the moon of heart, vitality, presence, and embodied selfhood. It rises during Aquarius season, placing the sun and the moon in direct opposition. Self and collective, heart and field embodiment, and ideology are things that are highlighted right now. For those that are new here, we here at Flourish are a Black Indigenous self healing collective committed to the return of cultural, spiritual, and ancestral ways. We work with astrology, astronomy, cosmology, and not as separate disciplines, but as interwoven languages of truth, observation, and belonging. We do not separate science from spirit. So the sky isn't a metaphor here. Um, it is structure, signal, and rhythm. The moon, the planets, the constellations, they're not abstractions. They are bodies with grass, with I said with grass, with mass and gravity, light, motion, and memory. And because we are made of blood, we're made of salt, we're made of minerals, we're made of water, we're made of electricity, we are already in relationship with the sky, whether we want to or not. The moon doesn't need us to believe in order for it to have an effect on us, right? So, astrology is what gives us the language for timing and meaning. Astronomy grounds us in what we observe and what is measurable, right? And cosmology reminds us that we are not separate from the sky, but of it and from it, right? And so, sometimes I'll be panicking, y'all, because I'll be thinking that I left the microphone somewhere. And honestly, I hope that it's working because sometimes the mic don't be working. Okay. But this full moon in Leo, and my eyes are so blurry because honestly, I have oil in my eyes. And it made it more blurry because there's oil on my hands too. Okay, so me reading my notes might be a little tricky tonight. This full moon illuminates Leo, the constellation of the heart, the spine, and the place in the body where our courage live, our life force circulates. Leo is not about performance or dominance. It's about being here, fully inhabiting the self without apology or fragmentation. This moon rises in the first house, the house of self embodiment and live presence, while the sun moves through the seventh house, surrounded by Aquarian planets, because there is a stellium, right? That speaks to relationship, visibility, projection, and the collective gaze. This is a moon that asks, where's your life force going? Who is witnessing you and at what cost? What happens when the heart is ignored and what becomes possible when it leads? This moon is not here to inflate the ego. It is here to reseat the heart, to stabilize selfhood, to restore joy as intelligence, to power the body, but not for performance. So, as we begin this ritual, I invite you to arrive, to be embodied, to put your feet on the ground, to feel the support of your spine, and to place your hands on your chest and notice your breath. Maybe even get a drink of water too. Make sure you're comfortable because hopefully, if you're watching this, you're relaxing or you're doing something embodied like washing the dishes or folding clothes or doing something repetitive, okay? Okay, so now we're going to jump right off into that astrology after I get me some water. I always got to get water on camera. And my eyes are still so blurry, like from that oil being in there. Child, I gotta stop slam dunking myself in oil sometimes. But anyways, so if we could really say the energy of this moon, it would be a spiritually clarifying full moon. And this moon again went direct. So that's 180. So that's 0% separating, or exact is what we call it in astrology, right? So that means that that is the strongest point of a full moon. Okay, and that took place on Sunday, February 1st, 2026 at 5:09 Eastern Standard Time. And it was at 13 degrees and 4 minutes of Leo, seated in the first house. This placement puts the embodied self at the very center of this lunation. Child, I really am. It's like, what a day. What a weekend. What a January. Anyways, because I'm still like, I cannot see. I cannot see because it's oil. Okay. This is a full moon that foregrounds presence, vitality, self recognition. Ooh, can I turn up the screen? Yes. And the restoration of life force through the body. Unlike full moons that emphasize reaction, response, or external consequence, this one demands something different. It demands inhabitation. The act of fully occupying yourself without apology, without performance, and without disappearance. This lunation occurs in the second decan of Leo, traditionally associated with Sagittarius, and what is often called the blue flame of truth seeking, vision, and spiritual fire. So, this is not just a fiery moon, it's also a very clarifying moon. The second decan of Leo intensifies creativity and heart centered energy with Sagittarian discernment, making this a moon of clearing, releasing, and revelation. What cannot survive? Truth loses coherence here, and what is aligned becomes unmistakable. At 13 degrees Leo, this full moon carries a very specific resonance. It speaks to the joy of lived experience, refined, and wisdom. This degree emphasizes my eyes started just getting blurry and blurry. And I'm like getting over a sinus infection and everything else. So it's just like, I'm telling you, January was, it gave. So I'm so happy to be in February. Oh my God. And when I got the sinus infection, it snowed. The most it snowed uh, since 1978, I believe. And I started my cycle. I was out there shoveling snow. Sounded like, yeah, all my cycle, like they do. I know I'm saying this to, that was just very intimate, but that's the level of intensity. So I'm laughing to myself as I'm reading the script with my blurry eyes. Like, man, what a way to end all this January energy with blurriness in my eyes, because I'm trying to rush and hurry up and do the live, and then got some oil in my eyes. But this degree emphasizes memory, not as nostalgia, but as embodied knowing. The way we, the way experience teaches us what body is real, that the body is real, what is sustainable, and what is worth protecting. In Sabian symbology, this degree is associated with the old sea captain rocking on a porch, an imagery of earned authority, reflection without regret, and quiet confidence that comes from living fully. Under this moon, joy is not frivolous. Joy is evidence of survival, of learning, and of self trust. This lunation most strongly activates fixed signs between 10 degrees and 15 degrees. So, fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, highlighting pressure points where stability has hardened into rigidity and where calibration is well overdue. Fixed energy holds, sustains, and preserves. This full moon asks a very simple question: what are you holding and why? Opposite the moon, a concentrated Aquarius stellium gathers in the seventh house. This includes the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Pluto, and Fortuna, or a lot of fortune, with multiple conjunctions tightening the energetic field. It was just so many conjunctions that it just didn't make sense to go through them one by one, because this was such a packed full moon. But in the tier 4 workbook, you can get all of that. I just wanted to overemphasize that. Okay. And this stellium pulls focus toward relational systems, social contracts, ethics, visibility, and collective frameworks, all of which stand in direct tension with the Leo's moon demand for embodied selfhood. So the question is no longer how to belong. The question is what belonging cost. The sun, ruler of the full moon, sits at 13 degrees and 4 minutes of Aquarius, also in the seventh house, a position of the, uh, I guess they call it detriment, or the I can never say this word. I know the word, I just cannot say it out loud. Anyways, but it's detriment. So when a planet is in detriment, it's when it cannot express itself fully. Okay. And in detriment typically is a sister sign, or 180 degrees. So it's the sign that is 180 degrees opposite of it. Okay. Aquarius is the sun's opposite sign, creating heightened polarity between individual vitality and collective abstraction. This is a classic full moon tension, but here it's intensified by the sheer density of the Aquarian field. They be kicking ass and taking names sometimes, especially with the nervous system. The result is a confrontation between lived truth and ideological alignment, between what the body knows and what the system asks us to accept. The ruling house for this full moon in Leo is the fifth house, emphasizing creativity, pleasure, desire, and the joy of self expression. This house is activated by the black moon, or Lilith, being at 4 degrees Sagittarius, and the vertex being at 20 degrees of Sagittarius, introducing themes of unfiltered truth, suppressed pleasure, and fading encounters with one's authentic creative force. This is not a playful energy in a superficial sense. It is initiatory. It asks us what parts of self were exiled for being told that you were too much, too honest, or too alive. Elementally, this full moon is dominated by fire. This fire is amplified by a trine. So a trine is a real good conversation between the planets, linking the Leo moon to Chiron and Neptune that are currently in Aries, echoing again the Sagittarius activations via Lilith and Vertex, because that is also in the fire signs, right, of Aries. This fire is not chaotic, though. It is actually very instructive. It illuminates wounds around visibility, belief, spiritual authority, while offering a path toward healing through courage, pleasure, and embodied truth. Air supports this fire through the Aquarian stellium, signaling that this clarity will reshape how information, connection, and meaning circulate moving forward. Taken together, these configurations mark this lunation as a spiritually very clarifying full moon, right? So this is not about spectacle. It's not about performative rebellion, because Aquarius energy is known as being rebellious, right? Being the actual rebel, being the prodigal son or the prodigal daughter to some extent, right? This is a moon that asks for internal realignment, one that quietly alters everything downstream. The fire here does not burn bridges, it burns illusions. It asks what joy has been suppressed, what wisdom has been earned, and what parts of self are ready to return to the center, which is the body. In this video, we approach the new moon through a clearing and recalibration portal, not as manifestation. Listen, y'all, I know, because everything that's going on, everybody want to manifest, manifest, manifest. But I've been trying to tell people it's other ways that you can do it. You can do embodiment, you can do invocations, you can do it affirmations. There's just so many things you can do. And actually, with full moons, we use embodiment. We use embodiments here, and we even have embodiment words because I like to be so intentional on full moons that I will use words that I want to embody, and I'll go look up the definition, right? So we put that in the workbook, right? That's offered in tier 4. So I just wanted to say that because everybody get caught up in the manifestation cycle, right? With fixed fire anchoring the body, the Aquarian pressure reorganizes relational systems. The workings, the rituals, and the routines are designed to also restore circulation, protect the nervous system, reseat the Ori in preparation for the cycles ahead, right? Okay. So now that we understand the astrology, we're now going to move on into what are the themes and the pressure points or the pressure fields for this full moon. Okay. So every full moon, you have a sun and the moon opposing each other, right? That's what makes a full moon because all of the light from the sun then gets to hit the part of the moon that's facing us. And so, because of that, that's what makes a full moon. So, they always have to be 180 degrees from one another. But this full moon is taking place with the moon being in Leo in the first house and then the Aquarius stellium. So the sun and the other celestial bodies that are there are in the seventh house, right? So this is a full moon that's built on an axis of authority, and not authority as in dominance, but authority as in who gets to decide what is real or what is real in like your life. When the moon in Leo is in the first house, the body becomes the primary witness. So that's presence, sensation, and heart intelligence that reclaims the right to be able to speak first. Opposite the moon, the Aquarius sun is in the seventh house and reflects back the systems that we've been in relationships with. So that's contracts, ethics, expectations, communities, and ideologies that shape how we are seen and how we are received. Personally, this is embodied selfhood versus relational systems. Energetically, life force that has been circulating outward toward agreement, toward consensus, and toward obligation is now returning to the body. Ancestrally, Ori claims authority from conscious and from social demand. When we're talking about this energy for the opposition between the sun and the moon from a land-based perspective, it is hearth over network, land over sky, abstraction, and politically, it marks the withdrawal of consent from systems that require self-erasure to belong. Okay? This unified teaching is simple and uncompromising. The self must be intact before relationships can be ethical. Because this opposition is separating, the rupture has already been seen. What remains is integration, not negotiation. Okay? So that's the energy that the sun and the moon and their relationship in the opposing houses and with everything that is going on. Because there's an Aquarius stellium, that's the energy that is given off. Okay, some of these will be highlighted, but most of these probably won't be highlighted. If they are, it'll be somewhere in the Patreon. I'm not really sure at what point, but I'm just really wanting to stress the top themes that I felt for this moon. Also, the sun has many different conjunctions. So this creates a lot of systemic pressure or cluster points. So conjunctions are when two celestial bodies are within 5 degrees of one another. And so when that happens, in astrology, we experience trines and conjunctions overall. Something I would say is auspicious or good, right? But when you have too much of anything, it can just feel very stressful, very exhilarating. So when you have a lot of conjunctions, and we just had a lot of conjunctions for the Capricorn full moon too, it just creates a lot of pressure or a lot of friction because that means a lot of celestial bodies are kind of close to one another, right? Because it's conjunction. So they're in 5 degrees of one another. And in Aquarius right now is the sun, um, is Mars, is Mercury, is Venus, and is Pluto. And the Fortuna, a lot of fortune is also there, right? So this creates a lot of pressure. These planets are not operating as separate influences ancestrally, and I would even say from like astro like physics perspective, they function as one pressure field, right? So Mercury shapes language and meaning. Venus aestheticizes value into rightness, right? Mars drives urgency and ideological action, and Pluto hides or it hides coercive power inside duty and service. So why is it hitting quite like that? Why are those specific planets having quite that angle? And it's because of the specific areas that they are impacting in the seventh house. Together, they describe a collective environment that is loud, charged, and constantly demanding response. Because the seventh house is like that. It's the first house that is not about self. It's about other, right? So it's highly magnetic. So it constantly has things coming toward it because it is about other. And then on top of that, intimate relationships, right? And so that's why the energy is very loud, charged, or magnetizing and demanding a response, because typically in very intimate relationships, there needs to be some sort of, I don't want to say affirmation or immediate turnaround, but the response typically needs to be a certain kind of way. Okay. And so energetically, what these conjunctions feel like energetically is a pressure field for explanation, participation, and alignment, impacting this energy because of Aquarius energy and how it's mixing with the seventh house. Ancestrally, this is recognized as a similar danger when systems speak louder than the body and spirit speaks first, right? Or and the spirit leaves first. My bad, y'all. So what that means is when the body is not getting what it needs, like all of the spirit cannot inhabit the body, right? And so this is what that is the reminder of ancestrally when we're talking about the conjunctions that are here with that Aquarius stellium and them all hitting. How it's showing up through ancestral patterns is basically or I'm my bad, that was energetically, but how it's showing up through ancestrally is recognized as similar danger when systems speak louder than the body. Okay, my bad. The spirit leaves first. My bad. So I got turned around. So this is like, again, when you're being scared or something like that, you just can't inhabit all of your energy, like all of your frequency, all of your vibration, all of your soul in your body, which should be the seat of your RE, your center, right? And so that is that reminder ancestrally because we did that to protect ourselves, to stay alive. That's a survival mechanism. Politically, this is moral systems extract labor, care, and compliance without force. Because I'll save that portion for the Patreon, right? This is correct. This correction is offered by the Leo moon, and it's not rebellion. It is filtration. So action, speech, and values must pass through the Ori before they are enacted. Okay. The moon, because of how close all the planets are in Aquarius, also has a lot of conjunctions. And this conjunction in Leo, and Leo it is embodied energy, and sometimes embodied energy, heart center energy can be very emotional, right? And not emotional in a sacral chakra kind of way or in the lower chakras kind of way, but it still is very emotional, but it can come from a place that often involves relationships or ethics or morals or contracts or things that align with Venus or the seventh house, right? But Leo is actually in the first house, right? And all of these oppositions that it's facing is kind of toggling between the sixth and the seventh house, right? So this is reading as separate emotional conflicts, but I guess that's how other astrologers would talk about it. But from a more ancestral or cosmological place, this is just one big, large, continuous movement, right? And this is emotional. I guess the energy that you might be feeling is the need to just stop over explaining, right? So, personally, feelings, you might refuse to negotiate them away. I've been very much so. I noticed with this Leo full moon advocating, just coming right out and saying what it is that I need and keeping it pushing. Right. It's been embodied me, like it's something in my body that is visceral and making me do that. And for me, I guess that relates to just the specific place and journey that I'm in, but I think also it relates to that embodied selfhood kind of energy of Leo, the Leo moon being in the first house. So energetically, this is creating like a restoration of flow for your emotional circulation for a lot of things that you might have been working through or doing shadow work on or feel like you couldn't quite process yet, or if you were processing it, you didn't have the words for it. Ancestrally, this might be suppressed emotional inheritance that resurfaces. So, what are the things that you got from your family? What are the emotionally suppressed things that you got from your family or that you got from your bloodline? Because these might be people that you ain't never met before, but because you come from them. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean epigenetically? What does that mean ancestrally? In culture, this exposes how some societies punish feeling like you need something in order to create instability. So a lot of times in cultures, like what will get weaponized is people having needs, right? And it's just like we're human. It's impossible not to have needs. Like I have water right here. I'm about to use this soon because like humans need water, right? Because we're alive and we're composed of like 70% of this. And so what does that mean when we're talking about you getting punished for having needs and then recognizing that that comes from a place of maybe at a societal place, them trying to make you feel unstable in the first place, right? So that is the energy that might be coming up with all these oppositions that are happening because there's just so much energy in Aquarius and the full moon is in Leo, which is opposite Aquarius. One second, y'all. Okay, I feel like I had to blow my nose, but I didn't. Okay. So the next energy more than likely is I think just what's going on with Mars conjuncting Pluto. So the energy with that is ancestral will returning. This again is kind of happening in the seventh house or the sixth house along with the rest of the Aquarius stellium. So Pluto and Mars are both currently in Aquarius. So this is deep compression for surfacing. So Mars is like the planet of motivation. Mars is the planet of anger. It's the planet of sex. It's the planet of drive. It represents I am energy. And Pluto is governed by Scorpio in the eighth house, which is the house of merging, the house of belonging, the house of transformation, the house of death, the house of rebirth, right? Pluto governs power, it governs coercion, it governs control, but like we said, it governs rebirth, it governs transformation. So when these energies come together, Energetically, it can feel like what has been contained or suppressed or controlled for too long, especially with that sixth, seventh house energy, especially with routines that have been related to social or community or interpersonal relationship contracts that no longer are in accordance with the way of life for you. Ancestrally, this can look like rage and power from generations managed by systems. I mean, with everything that's going on in the world, but also when you really understand the 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 cylindrical effect of history, it's impossible not to have righteous rage. Okay. And so, what do you do? And I would say one of the things that you can do always is to acknowledge that rightful rage, which is why I'm bringing it up. Politically, it marks power returning to those who have long been extracted from. I guess another dynamic that will be kind of interesting. I'm trying to decide, do I want to talk about Saturn or Neptune, because there's a conjunction happening between those, but Neptune just moved into Aries and Saturn is still in Pisces, right? Or whether we want to talk about Mercury squaring Uranus. Also, we did not go live publicly during the Capricorn new moon. So this is the first live video that we've had for the public um since I believe the Cancer full moon. So we are here one complete lunation cycle later, but inside of the apothecary, inside of the Patreon, in tier one, we did talk quite a bit about Uranus being in Taurus for the Capricorn new moon. There's also a particular square that's happening there. And I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about that or if I want to talk about belief compost. And we also kind of talked a lot about what was happening with Pisces too, because there was a stellium in Pisces in the Capricorn new moon. And I think I'm being called to really talk about Saturn and Neptune and the I guess it's really just a conjunction, even though they're in two different two different signs, they're still within a certain amount of degrees from one another. Okay. And this is happening in the ninth house. They're also in the same house together, right? That's how close they are. And so these configurations dissolve belief systems that no longer sustain life and no longer are coming from a heart centered place. So belief systems that just really don't align with your heart and align with your heart's energy will be hard to metabolize right now. So spiritually, old cosmologies lose coherence. And if something loses coherence, it loses value. Ancestrally, this energy looks like support is withdrawn from devotion that requires suffering. So I guess the thing that I most wanted to bring up about this particular aspect is that when you're doing ancestral veneration, all ancestral veneration isn't good. Um, because all your ancestors don't like you. Like that's real. Like this is still a relationship. This is still seventh house energy, right? Like any groupings or settings of relationships, all people don't get along. It don't matter that y'all in different realms. Like it don't really matter that y'all in different realms. If y'all don't get along, y'all don't get along. And all your ancestors don't get along with you. And whether you do or you don't want to figure out or understand, that's up to you. But what I am saying is that, like any reverence or veneration practice, you can stop. And in particular, you can also upgrade habits. So, for example, 6 months ago during the Aquarius full moon, I upgraded a habit or a way of life with my ancestors. But again, I can only do that because I'm working with ancestors I'm supposed to be working with. And one of the things that I did, because I'm working with ancestors I'm supposed to be working with, is create a container of protection around me and those ancestors from the ones that we're not supposed to be working with, that we ain't supposed to be riding with. They're riding in the opposite direction. We're over here now. So with that being said, this is a real good time to use that conjunction with Neptune being in Aries and Saturn being in Pisces to kind of change up the belief system, I guess. Change up. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Changing up the belief system and letting go of things that don't resonate with you. Like, that's literally heart-centered energy practices that are heart-centered energy, or even if you're holding on to something ancestrally because that's what your ancestors believed in. That's okay. Ancestors and you can have different belief systems. As a matter of fact, that's more common than you might think. Right? Like, when we really talk about the facts of the situation, not the manufactured stories, you and a lot of your ancestors will have conflicting belief systems or politics. Right? Okay. So, every full moon, every new moon, every time we talk about the moon, any portion of the moon cycle, we literally talk about the moon, right? Because we don't separate the science from the astrology. So we talk about it from an astronomical place and an astrological place. And so, as we know and as we talk about every video, every portion of the moon cycle just doesn't involve the moon. It involves our luminary, the sun, right? And therefore, you cannot work with a full moon. You cannot work with a new moon, right? Without understanding that you are working with both of the sun and the moon's energy. This is energy work. We are doing energy work. So when we talk about it, we are also talking about the energetics of it in a way that literally makes sense. So when you are working with a Luna, you are also working with soul. There's no other way around it. Don't let nobody tell you otherwise, right? Every portion of the lunar cycle is just about how much of the soul's energy are you working with, right? So, wanted to overemphasize that astrologically, the moon is or astronomically, I'm so sorry. The moon is a natural satellite or object that orbits a planet or a star and is typically caught in the gravitational pull. So our moon is our only satellite and it is caught in the gravitational pull of our Earth because our Earth is so much bigger than the moon, right? And it helps to moderate the wobble of Earth as we spin on our axis. Like, stabilizing Earth literally would just be a lot more violent. And I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about just cosmologically, planetarily. Yeah. If the moon wasn't there, okay? It also helps to regulate climate, weather, and the season. The moon typically is between 239,000 to 226,000 miles away. This moon was 237,136, don't quote me, miles away, right? From Earth, and it controls the gravitational pull of water. Therefore, it also controls the tides of the water on Earth, so within our oceans, within our fresh water, but also all the water within all beings, including living beings, including humans. And we are composed between 70 to 80% water, right? Astrologically, the moon represents yin, feminine, receptive energy, and is governed by Cancer, ruler of the fourth house in astrology, and known for controlling and regulating emotions because it is the closest celestial body to the Earth. The moon spends about 2.5 days in each sign, which reflects why it governs things that are very fluid, like water and emotions. for the earth because they were always changing and fluid in their nature. I'm quoting myself now. Anyways, in your natal chart or your progressed chart, this placement shows your innermost world and who you are when you are comfortable, and when you feel the safest. In astrology, the moon also represents motherhood, native environments, and family. Okay, so we talked about that a full moon is when the sun and the moon are opposite one another. And so all of the sun's light illuminates on the side of the moon that's facing Earth fully, right? And then astrologically, this is just when the sun and the moon are in opposition with one another or 180 degrees from one another. Okay. And so this one is where the sun is in Aquarius at 13 degrees and 4 minutes, and the moon is directly opposite or exacting opposite at 13 degrees and 4 minutes of Leo. Okay, and this is highlighting the fifth house and the 11th house axis, which we will talk more about. And so, when we talk about how our ancestors understood full moons, especially in our African and our indigenous ancestral nations and places that we were, the full moon was long associated with birth. Still is. There's still more births during a full moon than any other time of the month. Ask me how I know. So it's associated with fertility, birth, abundance, completion, illumination, transformation, and rest. It can be considered a very emotional time or regarded as a time that is just very taxing, right? And it is the most potent portion of the moon cycle. Also, from a timekeeping place, ancestrally, the full moon symbolizes harvest or a peak time to see results of your intentions that you set during a new moon or the beginning of a moon cycle. Okay, so how we typically work with full moons um, is you should be open. You should be doing that embodiment, especially this Leo full moon, and being very receptive. It's not a time to fight or use a lot of willpower. It's usually a time to be fully present and accept the reality of the situation. It's also a time to express or release your feelings or emotions without feeling guilty, ashamed, or feeling guilty and shamed for having emotions, right? And at an energetic level, the spirit of our solar system is fully reflected on the moon, right? So that is the actual sun, the luminary. And it's a time to be receptive to the parts of yourself in situations or energy that is usually dark, unilluminated, or unconscious. From a magic perspective, it's best for celebrating achievement, embracing gratitude, engaging in self reflection, and a time to honor yourself and others. It is a time for resting and releasing. It could also be a time for altar work, candle work, ancestral altar work, or root working. Okay, but as you know, we are astro-cosmological, so we also talk about it from indigenous and Turtle Island perspective, right? And so the February full moon is always known as the snow moon, right? And so this is February midwinter's full moon. And it is the subtext or overall energy about this is hunger, survival, and the warmth of the heart. I still don't like microphones. Like, I don't know what will make me want to get there. Mm. Sorry I didn't mute. I've been trying to be conscientious, especially since y'all right above my throat. This dang on microphone. Okay. So February's full moon is traditionally known as the snow moon, a name rooted in indigenous ecological observation across Turtle Island. The moon reaches peak illumination on February 1st, 2026 at 5:09 p.m., rising east at sunset and glowing as it lifts into the winter sky. It's also the first of the month and the start of Black History Month, in addition to it being a full moon. So, very energy filled period, right? The name is literal. Force is the name is literally literal and precise. February is historically the snowiest month of the year across North America. Snow blankets the land, deepens isolation, slows movement, and reshapes how life survives. Yes, and like I said, we got record snow where I am. The snow moon does not symbolize beauty alone, it marks environmental pressure, resource scarcity, and the necessity of careful pacing. This is a moon of endurance, not expansion. From an indigenous cultural understanding, how did they know or talk about this February moon? So, across many indigenous nations, February's full moon carries name that speaks to hunger, birth, and survival, not metaphorically, but practically. Among different traditions, this moon has been known as the snow moon by the Dakota, the hungry moon, or the moon of bony or the month of bony moon, so the Cherokee, acknowledging food scarcity and physical depletion. You also have the bald eagle moon by the Cree, which is reflecting watchfulness, protection, and aerial sight, but also because if you really pay attention, especially around this time, the days are really, really bright because it's cold, but the nights are very, very clear. So it's very easy to see an eagle. It's very easy to see very huge birds around this time of year. And so as they were just observing and kind of staying warm and staying huddled together because it is the closest time of the year, they're not going to be out too much. They might be bird watching because that was the thing to watch back in the day. And so they might have called it that during that time period, right? Also, the raccoon moon by the Dakota or the Lahota, in observing animal movement near human settlements. And there are some other names for the moon, but it'll either be in the workbook or in the Patreon, right? And so these names reveal a shared truth that February is a test month where supplies are low, energy is precious, and life continues anyway, quietly, carefully, and relationally or together. Okay, so during this current snow moon, when you went outside last night, and I hope you did because I did, that's why I ain't gonna lie. And then I went to bed. But on the night of February 1st, and it's pretty similar if you walk out tonight, the snow moon rises near the constellation of Cancer, close to the beehive cluster that we talked about during the Cancer full moon. And I put my foot in that section, so you really should go look at it. Which is an ancient cluster of young stars. Jupiter appears high in the eastern sky, shining brilliantly as an evening star. It is not a star, it is a planet, but it is bright when you go outside. Also, Castor and Pollux, who are actual stars, a part of the Gemini constellation, they glow nearby, just like they did during the Cancer full moon. Okay? Acting as watchers, mirrors, and witnesses. Orion stands visible to the right, with Aldebaran, the red eye of Taurus, flickering right above it. Regulus, which is one of the stars in Leo that we're going to talk about, is actually what they call the heart of Leo, shines just over 10 degrees from the moon. And on February 2nd, which is tonight, the moon will occult Regulus, briefly covering the heart of the lion. So there'll be a quick little second where you won't be able to see Regulus, but when it come back out, it'll be like pop out. I really be outside looking at the stars, as you can tell by this part. And Saturn, and you can see it just a little bit, is lingering low in the west near Pisces, settling early after sunset. This is a sky of witnesses and thresholds. Guardians, hunters, kings, twins, and elders are all visible in the field of vision. From a cosmological meaning, This is not a moon of movement. They called it the cold moon, right? This is a moon of containment. Snow covers tracks. Sound travels differently. Hunger sharpens memory. Birth happens in hidden places, like when bears, they give birth in their cabins around this time of the year when they're hibernating. The mother bears who are pregnant, that's usually around the time they're giving birth underground in their caverns when they're hibernation spaces, right? Under this moon, the ancestors do not shout, they observe. The snow moon teaches how to ration energy, how to keep warmth without excess, that heart centered energy, and how to protect life while resources are thin. Just as the bear's cubs are born, quarter myself, unseen and fragile beneath the snow, new life and new truths are forming quietly, not ready yet for exposure. Okay. So, what are the environmental and the spiritual themes when we think about the snow moon? This moon carries scarcity, wisdom, knowing what truly sustains you, quiet gestation, growth without visibility, relational dependence, survival as collective, not individual, emotional insulation, protecting the heart without freezing it, and ancestral proximity. Spirits are close when the land is still. And let me tell you, when that snow came, when that snow came last week, the spirits were close. But anyways, um, okay, so this snow moon asks a different question than other full moons, right? It does not ask what do you want. It asks what you carry, what you must protect, and what must be kept warm until spring. This full moon asks what nourishes me when excess is none. Where do I share, or who do I share warmth with, and who shares it with me? I know that's right. And what is forming quietly that I must not rush into the open? This is not a moon of manifestation. It is a moon of preservation, discernment, and faith in unseen continuity. I've now said that twice, and I really do mean it. It is not a moon of manifestation. No full moon is, but especially this one. And I did hear two people saying that, and I was like, no, please, for the love of energetics. Anyways, let's talk about Leo, the constellation. So, Leo, the constellation of radiance and living fire. Okay. So, let's begin by grounding that Leo is an actual place made of actual stars and celestial bodies. It's like some of the densest part of our sky, right? So it's a real constellation. It's a real living stellar field, and it's one of the most visible and recognizing constellations from Earth. Leo season spans, and this is for tropical astrology, from July 22nd through August 22nd in the heavens. Leo sits between Cancer to the west and Virgo to the east. Its celestial neighbors include Coma Berenices, Crater, Hydra, Leo Minor, Lynx Sexton, and Ursa Major, or Big Bear, one of my favorites. Astronomically, Leo spans about 947 square degrees, making it the 12th largest constellation in the night sky. It is visible from every continent except Antarctica, I believe, or the North Pole, one of the two. And that's just because it how visible that it is. Because Leo is not a hidden or subtle constellation like Cancer, right, or Libra. Those are pretty dim or hidden constellation. It is bold and unmistakable and demands being widely witnessed. For thousands of years, civilizations across Africa, Turtle Island, the Mediterranean, South Asia, and the Middle East used Leo as a solar marker, a seasonal signal, and a mythical anchor for understanding life force, heat, courage, and creative vitality. Lies directly along the ecliptic, the path the sun and the moon and planets travel across our sky, placing it in a celestial zone long associated with kingship, radiance, vitality, and heart power. Unlike many constellations, Leo is easy to recognize. Its stars trace the unmistakable outline of a lion reclining into the heavens, a form that imprints itself into memory. The sickle of Leo and the heart of the lion. The most recognizable feature of Leo is something called the sickle. It looks like a backwards question mark marked in the sky and forms the lion's head and mane. The arc begins at Regulus, also known as Alpha Leonis, a brilliant blue-white star whose name means the little king. From Regulus, the curve moves along through the stars like algebra and I can never say this one. Algeba, the brightest star in the sickle. Algeba's name literally means the lion's mane and is a binary star system located about 139 light years from Earth. Two star orbits one another there. One is golden yellow and one is orange red. Also within Leo is a living stellar field, right? So, I'm sorry. I meant living stellar field and I'm up here thinking about the clusters. But anyways, because I think the clusters that we talked about are in the workbook. Oh, no, they're right here. Okay, my bad. A living stellar mirror of Leo solar fire and heart centered duality. Together with several fainter stars, the sickle forms what many cultures recognize as a celestial crown, a sign signifying sovereignty, dignity, and rightful authority. From the sickle, Leo expands outward into a triangle of stars forming the lion's hunches or okay, never. I have so many challenging words nowadays. The haunches and its tail anchored by the denibola, meaning the tail of the lion. Denibola marks movement, completion, and energy flowing outward, reinforcing Leo's role in creative transmission and visible expression. Leo is not only rich in stars, it has a lot of galactic depth and living matter, right? It is rich in galactic structures. Within its bounds lie several major galaxies, including the Leo triplet, Messenger 65, 66, and NGC 3628. These galaxies are gravitationally bound, about 35 million light years from Earth, demonstrating Leo's role as a field of collective creation. Even more mysterious is the Leo ring, discovered in 1983. The Leo ring is a vast primordial cloud of hydrogen and helium gas, stretching 6 times wider than the Milky Way. It is massive, dense enough to form stars, and yet it hasn't yet. It remains suspended, uncollapsed, a cosmic reservoir of potential. This is Leo in its deeper cosmological expression, containing fire, latent creativity, and life force awaiting ignition. There are also some meteors that also emanate from there. That sometimes we can see, sometimes we don't. Leo is also the radiant source of the Leonid meteor shower, which occurs every November as Earth passes through the debris field left by the comet Temple Tuffle. These meteors are fast, bright, and fiery. They streak across the sky sudden They streak across the sky like sudden illuminations, another expression of Leo's celestial signature. And just to reinforce, Leo has always been associated with solar guardianship and heroic trails. In Greek mythology, Leo is linked to the Nemean lion, a beast with a golden hide impervious to weapons. It cannot be defeated through force alone, only through embodied strength, courage, and ingenuity. In ancient Egypt, Leo had a very different yet equally powerful meaning. The sun's passage through Leo coincided with the annual floodings of the Nile, a flooding that was not destructive but regenerative. Dry lands became fertile soil. Because of this, Leo was associated not with conquest, but with divine timing, renewal, and life returning to the land. So, Leo as a cosmological gate. Leo is not just an astrological symbol, it is a real stellar field emitting measurable light, heat, and electromagnetic radiation. When the sun aligns with Leo from the Earth's perspective, our planet is oriented toward this region of space, receiving its galactic signals filtered through solar radiation. These transmissions influence our biological rhythms, our circulatory and cardiac systems, our nervous system excitation, emotional vitality and expression, and even seasonal plant and animal behavior. In this way, Leo functions as a part of Earth's cosmological timekeeping system, marking cycles of visibility, maturation, joy, and creative emergence. So, when we speak about the Leo full moon as a time of embodied selfhood, joy, or courage, we are not speaking metaphorically. We are responding to the actual astrophysical conditions of Leo. So, to work with Leo is to align with the laws of light, circulation, and life force itself. To remember that joy is not indulgence, it's a cosmological function, right? And so, why this matters for us here at Flourish is because Leo's energy, or any of the astrology that we talk about, is not just a personality theory or symbolic preference. It's like Leo's real. It's a measurable stellar field. So all of the archetypes and the spiritual downloads that our ancestors got when, in particular, because Kemetic astrology, right, is what became Hellenistic astrology, which then became Western astrology, right? So we have the many different forms of astrology, but it stems from a very ancestral place. And so when they were interpreting the archetypes and the things and how and what they associated with the stars or with the particular constellations that were on our eclectic path, right, which Leo is, all of this was not separate and apart from that, including how they read the sky, what they knew about those celestial bodies, because they did know about these stars, right? And how they were able to track that with rhythm, with pattern, with ways of knowing. They were able to pick up on this energy. So we're not just talking about our ancestors' unconscious or certain forms of our personality. We are talking about our habits that wasn't disconnected from the land, from the earth, from rhythms, from the sky, right? From nature itself. And nature is just more, or what is natural, or what is in natural rhythm is more than just what is here on earth, right? And so that is how we talk about astrology, okay? Okay. Now, because of this, we do tell stories about Leo's energy from a cosmological perspective, which is also not separate and apart from the actual astronomy or the astrology, right? And Leo is not merely a zodiac sign, as we just talked about. It's a solar gateway, a region of the sky, and a season of the year where life force is amplified, visibility is unavoidable, and creative authority is tested through embodiment. Across Hoodoo, African traditional religions, and Kemetic science and ancient star lore, this is the part of the sky that has always been associated again with vitality, with kingship, with fertility, with courage, and the sacred right to radiate, to stand in all of your light. Leo governs the heart of the year, just as it governs the heart of the body. Here, life force must circulate freely or it stagnates. Joy becomes medicine, and leadership is proven not through domination, but through warmth, generosity, and presence. So, Leo cosmology in Hoodoo and Southern folk traditions is associated with firework, with candle work, with name work, and with vitality restoration. Where Capricorn tended to the bones and the dead with the Capricorn new moon, Leo tends to live embodied the will and the personal spirit. This is the season of calling back parts of self that were dormant under survival, which are things like joy, desire, your voice, or your presence. Leo is not here to be destructive. It animates, it purifies, and it reveals. Leo also governs how one is seen, spoken of, and remembered. The sun illuminates the truth, but also exposes. So Leo's work requires discernment, when to be visible and when to protect one's light from energy or extraction. Leo in African cosmologies really represent Ori and living authority. In Yoruba cosmology, Leo's solar force resonates with Ori, the inner head, personal divinity, and seat of destiny. Leo emphasizes embodied Ori, not destiny as a concept, but destiny lived through the body, voice, and daily choice. This is why Leo season surfaces questions of purpose. Am I living the life I agreed to? In Congo cosmology, Leo aligns with the vital fire and regenerative force, the heat and circulation that animates life on this side of the Caligula line. Where bones are ancestors, blood and heat are life. Leo restores circulation between spirit and flesh, ensuring that leaders, healers, and power objects remain alive and not hollowed out by obligation or by ritual. Leo in Kemetic cosmology really represents solar power and right relationship. In Kemetic spiritual science, Leo resonates with Ra at full radiance and with Sekhmet, the line of solar fire, healing and rightful correction. This reveals Leo's dual truth that the sun that nourishes is also a sun that burns away what cannot endure. Leo is inseparable from Mat, not as judgment, but as right circulation. A heart cannot circulate truth and joy becomes heavy. A healer who hoards light destabilizes the land, right? And so that is what the energy represents when we were talking about from a comedic spiritual science perspective. And Leo season aligns with the flooding of the now, like we previously talked about. A renewal triggered by solar power and not destruction. Here, leadership feeds the people and radiance sustains life. Okay, so across all traditions, Leo is a cosmology of animation. This is not the realm of endurance or closure. This is the realm of presence, courage, joy, and visible truth. Leo teaches that life force must move and be expressed, or stagnates into bitterness, pride, or collapse. Working with the Leo full moon is not about proving worth or forcing manifestation. It is about restoring circulation between heart and body, desire, action, self, and the world. Joy is not a distraction from liberation. It is evidence that life is flowing as it should. To align with Leo is to stand in the sun. And I was told one time that the sun never apologizes for being the sun. So I just thought I'd pass that on. But to warm, illuminate, and bring life to whatever is needed. So Leo through Turtle Island cosmology. Across many indigenous nations of Turtle Island, cosmology is not organized around zodiac signs in the Western sense. It is organized around seasons, elements, directions, animals, and relational responsibility. So when we translate Leo into this worldview, we do not ask, what is this sign? We ask, what time or what kind of time is this? What kind of fire is moving? And what role is being called forth in the human? So Leo corresponds most closely to the mid-high summer fire, a time when the sun stands strong overhead, when life is visible, when fruits swell, and when beings are called to take their place in the circle. This is not a time of ego. It is responsibility through radiance, through relationship, right? Fire as life, not a weapon. In many Turtle Island traditions, fire is a primary teacher. Fire is a living being. Fire is not a tool. It warms, it cooks, it gathers people, it carries prayer. Oof, it purifies, baby. And it marks time. During high summer, fire is at its most expressive. not destructive by fault, but by default, but revealing. Leo solar fire aligns with council fire, where voices are heard, ceremonial fire, where prayer visibly rises, yes, and domestic fire, hearth and nourishment. This is the first fire that teaches. If you are here, you must be seen. If you are seen, you must be accountable. In many indigenous teachings locate truth not in the mind, but in the heart. The heart is the place of courage, honesty, and relational integrity. To speak from the heart is not metaphorical, it is a discipline. Through a Turtle Island lens, Leo governs heart truth over clever speech, courage as moral clarity, visibility as service to people. Absolutely. This is the season where those who carry gifts are expected to step forward, not for dominance, but for community, so that the community does not suffer from withheld medicine. To hide one's light when needed is considered a form of imbalance. Okay, now let's really dig deep into what Leo energy is like from a astrological perspective. And so when the sun enters Leo each year, we cross a different kind of threshold. This is not a checkpoint of discipline or endurance, it's a checkpoint of life, force, presence, and creative truth. Leo is fixed fire energy, ruled by the sun and associated with the fifth house, the domain of joy, creativity, pleasure, children, erotic life force, play, performance, and the courage to be seen as oneself. But beyond confidence or charisma, Leo is the place where spirit enters the body and asks to be lived. Leo's where creation becomes personal, where memory becomes wisdom, where joy becomes a form of authority. The sun, Leo, and the inner fire. The sun, Leo's ruler, is not simply a planet, it is a central life giver of our solar system. Astrologically and cosmologically, the sun governs vitality, will, consciousness, an animating spark that makes life feel worth living. To work with Leo energies, to work with Ori, the inner sun, the seat of selfhood, destiny, and embodied truth. Leo teaches that creativity is not just decorations, it is survival, remembrance, it is a sacred technology of self continuity. When Leo's energy is active, the question is not how productive I am, is how alive do I feel? How well do I conform? Or not how well do I conform? But it also should be about how honestly do I express. Leo reminds us that pleasure, play, art, laughter, and devotion to what brings joy are not indulgences. They are proof that spirit is moving through you and moving through your body. In many spiritual traditions, the sun is the witness, the eye that sees without judgment, the fire that reveals without explanation. Leo carries this witness and quality into the body because it governs the heart, the spine, and the upper back, the centers of posture, courage, circulation, and dignity. Leo asks, can you stand upright in your own story? Can your heart remain open without performing for approval? Leo, moon, and illumination. Whew, I've been up since 3 a.m. and it shows in me reading my script and I'm singing. Oh, Gabriel, that's how you know. I just said, oh, I don't really care anymore. Okay. So for those engaged in creative healing, inner child work, erotic sovereignty, ancestral joy reclamation, or pairing pleasure after survival, Leo offers a powerful initiation. This is where shame around wanting surfaces, where fear of being seen appears, where the quiet grief of joy deferred becomes visible. When the moon moves through Leo, and especially during a Leo full moon, the invitation is not accumulation, it is illumination. Leo moons do not ask us to build or manifest. They ask us to remember what lights us up and notice where the light has been dimmed for the sake of safety or survival. And from a cultural or archetype perspective, when we talk about Western astrology, Leo energy is often characterized into caricatures of ego, attention seeking, or performing confidence. But culturally, especially through ancestral, communal, and embodied lens, Leo is something so much deeper. Leo is the architecture of selfhood, the capacity to know oneself, to stand in that knowing, and to be seen without apology. Leo does not rule power over, it rules through presence. Where Capricorn carries the bones that hold structures upright, Leo carries the heart fire that animates them. Without Leo, there is no reason to build, no joy in sustaining, no memory of why life is worth living beyond survival. Culturally, Leo asks, who are you when no one is managing you? And can you remain yourself when others are watching? The sun as witness, not as a tyrant. In cultural translation, the sun is not domination, it's a witness in consciousness. Before law, systems, contracts, there were a life force recognizing itself. Leo becomes distorted in cultures that punish visibility, shame desire, confuse humility with self erasure, and demand productivity without pleasure. In those environments, Leo is taught to dim, to apologize for existing, or to perform likability instead of truth. It's gonna come a time in these videos where I'ma always be like with my script reading it. Okay, y'all. That's why I don't like this microphone. It's like every way I get comfortable, I want to get caught in. I want to feel this heat on my back right now. But Leo is also about performance, play, and the sacred mass. Leo rules over performance, but not deception. Performance, in its original cultural sense, is ritualized expression. It is how communities remember themselves through storytelling, dance, theater, ceremony, and celebration. Leo governs the sacred mass, not as falsehood, but as amplification. In many cultures, masks and dramatizations were used to tell truths too powerful for ordinary people or ordinary speech. This is why Leo governs play as ritual, creativity as medicine, and pleasure as regulation. When play is stripped from life, the nervous system collapses. Leo's medicine restores regulated joy, not access, not escapism, but rhythmic pleasure that keeps the heart open. Leo also governs children, the inner child, and continuity. Leo governs children not as dependents but as carriers of life force forward. In many cultures, children were not silenced. They were observed for signs of destiny, talent, and calling. Culturally, Leo represents the protection of joy in children, the honoring of curiosity and delight, the refusal to crush spirit in the name of obedience. When cultures prioritize control over vitality, Leo becomes wounded. That wound often shows up later as the fear of being seen, shame around desire, difficulty receiving pleasure, over identification with roles instead of with self. In Leo healing, and Leo's healing is not just regression, it is actually retrieval because Leo represents within body the type of memory. And so Leo represents the politics of visibility. Leo governs who's allowed to shine. Leo's visibility has always been political across many societies. Certain bodies, voices, expressions were punished for standing out, especially when their joy threatened existing hierarchies. Because of this, Leo carries ancient ancestral memory around being punished for radiance, being shamed for confidence, being targeted for joy or talent. This is why Leo full moons often surface themes of self abandonment for belonging, suppressed creativity for consensus, and silence as survival. Leo teaches that withholding light does not create safety, it creates stagnation. So, in our cosmology, Leo becomes the keeper of flame, maintaining life force during collapse, the heart witness, remembering truth through feeling, not ideology, the joy bearer, carrying pleasure forward as cultural memory, and the radiant anchor, stabilizing others by being fully oneself. This is not charisma for approval, even though it is very charismatic. This is the presence that reorganizes space. Leo does not chase attention, it generates gravity. And also understanding that Leo as a spiritual technology, Leo aligns and Leo rituals are not about summoning power, it's about restoring circulation. Leo rituals often center fire rites that reconnect desire, action, receipt, joy, reclamation through dance, sound, and movement. And oftentimes play or heart center offerings. So flowers, light, warmth, color, visible boundaries, and knowing when to be seen and when to withdraw. But also inner child repair through pleasure and not analysis. Leo ritual does not force what is missing. It allows what already lives within you to breathe again, or lives within you to breathe again. So, joy is a technology. Leo reminds us that joy is not decorative, it is structural. Pleasures that lose joy lose continuity. Pleasure regulates nervous system. Joy sustains creativity, and delight keeps company alive through hardship. Without Leo, we survive. With Leo, we remember why we survive. When you are invoking Leo's energy, or when the moon moves through Leo, emotional energy warms and rises. Feelings travel through the chest, the spine, and the heart center, asking for loyalty first to the self and then to others. This is a powerful moon for reclaiming confidence, restoring joy, and reconnecting with the inner child who creates simply for the beloved. Leo moon energy invites us to claim space without apology, express emotion honestly, and creatively. Celebrate ourselves and others without shrinking. Learn with warmth rather than control. Restore joy where seriousness was hardened. Leo moons remind us that confidence is not ego, it is self-recognition. If you were born a Leo moon, then you often feel deeply, express openly, need appreciation and emotional affirmation, loving fiercely, and deeply, deeply loyal, naturally a leader and leading through warmth and presence, carrying strong creativity and performance instincts. They thrive when their heart is honored and struggle when ignored or taken for granted. At their best, Leo moons become beacons of courage, encouragement, and joy for others. Leo moon is warm, expressive, loyal, courageous, and heart led. Leo's elemental energy is fixed fire. This is not explosive fire, it is steady, radiant, sustaining life fire. Emotional energy under Leo moon as expression through creativity, affection, play, and leadership. Fire during Leo moon invites us to move the body, dance, stretch, breathe into the chest, work with candlelight, gold tones, or solar symbols, create art, speak truth, perform ritual out loud, nourish the heart through pleasure, laughter, and affection, strengthen the spine and upper back, and also heart center. We did talk a little bit about the Leo personality and highlighting the big six, but I don't know. I might just put that in the Patreon somewhere. Because we about hitting an hour 23 minutes. And what I did want to talk about before we got out of here is the axis. The Leo Aquarius axis, the core lesson. Okay. And the moon in Leo says, I deserve to exist as myself. The sun in Aquarius says, my existence must matter beyond me. Together they teach sovereign relationality, not self erasure for love, not isolation for authenticity, but presence without collapse. Okay? So that's the Leo Aquarius, the Fifth house, 11th house axis that is illuminated. And also Arumila is the ruling Orisha. So for this full moon in Leo, Arumila is the primordial intelligence that we work with or we walk with, not as decoration to solar energy, but as interpreter of it. Where Leo governs selfhood, visibility, creativity, and the will to live, Arumila governs why that self exists in the first place and how it must mature and what destiny actually requires of it. He refines Leo fire so it becomes purposeful radiance, not unchecked burn. The primordial witness of destiny. Orunmila is known as Ilari Apin, the witness of faith. He stood present at creation. He knows the agreements made before embodiment. He understands the difference between desire and destiny, between the ego, expression, and soul alignment. This is why his presence matters during a Leo full moon. This is why this illumination doesn't ask, how am I expressing myself? It asks, if the self I am expressing, is the self I'm expressing aligned with the destiny I agreed to live? Before fire, before land, stewardship of life force. Before land emerged, before land was formed or shaped, Arumula descended to earth when it was entirely water. He sustained himself not on consumption, but on the breath of the air and the life force that was in the air. This matters for Leo. Leo governs vitality, breath, heart, and creative force. He was also down here for 400 years. 400 years with Olakun. I just want to sprinkle that one part on there too. And so Leo governs vitality, breath, heart, and creative fire. Arumula teaches that life force is not something to burn through. It must be stewarded. Fire without wisdom burns out. Life without discernment blinds. Under this full moon, selfhood is asked to be sustainable, not performance. Destiny as a living system. So, the reason why we even have Ifa in the first place is because of Arumila. And Arumila is destiny as a living system. Arumila is the custodian of Ifa, not prophecy as prediction, but destiny as living system of memory, law, and consequence. He does not override inner authority, he clarifies his path. In Leo terms, this means you do not invent yourself from nothing, you remember yourself into coherence. Joy, creativity, leadership, and visibility are not random gifts, they are assigned responsibilities. Here, Leo's leadership is refined, not dominance, not applause, but ethical radiance. Your light is medicine. Every part of you living authentically is also best for the community. Ori, Leo, and the question of self. In Yoruba cosmology, Ori is not metaphor, it's the living seed of consciousness, the inner divinity that carries destiny, choice, and alignment. Nothing unfolds without Ori's consent. This full moon asks not how do I shine, but is my shining aligned with my Ori? Where has inner knowing already spoken and been ignored? Where has selfhood been negotiated away from for approval or survival? Leo restores Ori to the center, not as dominance, but as coherence. Okay, there was, I think, I do really want to highlight. Okay, so listen. The thing I really want to highlight for we ask the two questions we're gonna ask, and we're gonna hop over to the Patreon, is the Leo full moon on the Leo Aquarius axis. Okay, this is the deeper dive into that I was probably gonna put in the rituals, workings, and routines, but I was like, I'm gonna say it here. Um, Let me not turn that over no more. Every full moon is a moment of illumination created through opposition. This moon stands in one sign. The sun stands directly across from it in another sign. This creates contrast. And from contrast comes clarity. During this lunation, the moon in Leo, while the sun anchors itself into Aquarius, together they activate one of astrology's instinctive polarities, individuality and belonging, selfhood and relationship, personal radiance and collective responsibility. And that's because of they're in the first house, Leo, full moon, and the sun is in the seventh house. The core question for this full moon: Leo governs self, the heart, identity, joy, creativity, and the courage to be seen. Aquarius governs the social body, community, shared ideas, future vision, and collective systems. Together, they ask the central question: how do I remain true to myself while participating in relationship, community, and shared purpose without disappearing or dominating? This full moon does not ask you to choose one side, it asks you to hold the tension long enough for the truth to emerge. The fifth house, 11th house dynamic, because those are the two houses that belong to Aquarius and belong to Leo. This Leo axis expresses itself through the fifth house and 11th house houses. The fifth house, which is ruled by Leo and the sun, governs pleasure, creativity, play, romance, children, risk, artistry, and the heart, right? This is joy without justification. Under this full moon, the fifth house is activated in a way that expresses where joy may be suppressed, judged, or delayed, especially joy that tells us the truth. Opposite this is the 11th house is associated with Aquarius, which is community, friendships, movements, collective ideals, and future orientation. Even without planets sitting there, the 11th house is under pressure. So, this is collective structures and social agreements that are in flux, even if it hasn't fully arrived yet. So, the question becomes: am I sacrificing joy for belonging or avoiding community because it threatens my individuality? This moon asks for a contribution, not self abandonment. But the house that was activated for this full moon was the first house and the seventh house axis, which is where that selfhood versus relationship comes up. This lunation activates the most personal relational axis, the first house and the seventh house. The moon in Leo occupies the first house, the house of self. Here, emotions are visible, identity is felt in the body, needs want recognition, the inner child wants to be acknowledged. Opposite this, the seventh house is in Aquarius and is heavily activated. This brings partnership, contracts, mirrors, and long-term relational patterns into very sharp focus. Relationships becomes teachers, mirrors, initiation sites, and places where the truth can no longer be avoided. This axis delivers a very necessary and hard teaching. Relationship is not loss of self, but it will expose where selfhood is fragile, performative, and unintegrated. Threshold pressure or collective change. There's also a strong Uranian undertone to this full moon. We talked about Saturn, but we're going to talk about, because of like its relationship to this particular axis, we're going to talk about Uranus a little bit. This is the destabilizing undercurrent here in the full moon, and it's here not to punish but to free. When you really understand Uranus being in Taurus in those analytic degrees right now, anything built on self-erasure, emotional dishonesty, or false harmony is unlikely to hold. Future belongings cannot be built upon shrinking. How to work with this energy. This Leo full moon does not offer easy answers, it offers clarity through contrast. You are being asked to hold joy and responsibility, self-expression and relational accountability, visibility and integrity, desire and discernment. This is not a moon to dim your light, to preserve peace. It is not a moon to dominate either. This moon is to occupy your full presence without eclipsing others and without disappearing yourself. Okay. Okay. So I think I'm gonna just take these first three questions right here that I see, and these are about embodiment and selfhood. So where in my body do I feel most alive right now, and where do I feel most guarded or dampened? How has my posture, my breath, or my presence been shaped? I said that because I was hunching. I was like, how's my posture? My presence been shaped by needing to be acceptable. What changes when I let my body lead instead of my self image? All right, y'all. So we are about to hop over to the rituals, the workings, and the routine section. That'll be in tier 1 of our Patreon. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this full moon in Leo. Pop over so you can see how to actually work with this energy, though, because we did learn a lot about this energy. And thank you so much for being here. And remember to work from that heart space. All right, y'all. Bye.